This is considered the most violent haunting in all of Europe. And what makes it so terrifying is that every part of it was documented. It was documented by the family who lived there, by their neighbors, by priests, and even by the police. This is the chilling story of the Black Monk of Pontefract. Our story begins at number 30 East Drive, a quiet, unassuming council house in the town of Pontefract, West Yorkshire. It looks like any other home on any other street. A normal house for a normal family. But this home was anything but normal. This is where the disturbances began. It all started back in 1966. The Pritchard family had just moved in. There was the teenage son, Philip, his younger sister, Diane, and their parents, Jean and Joe. They were thrilled for a fresh start in their new home. They had no idea they were walking directly into a living nightmare. The very first sign of trouble seemed harmless enough, just strange. A mysterious white powder started falling from the ceiling. It was the middle of August. There was no rain, no leaks, nothing to explain it. Yet, this fine dust continued to pour down, coating the entire living room in a pale film, as if the house itself was decaying from the inside out. Then came the water. Pools would spontaneously form on the kitchen floor. Every single time the family desperately wiped them away, fresh puddles would appear almost instantly in the exact same spot. It was as if the house itself was weeping. Soon, the activity grew bolder. Objects began to move on their own. A tea dispenser started to shake violently without anyone touching it. Lights would flicker on and off at will. Family photographs were mysteriously slashed and ruined. This was clearly no playful spirit. This presence wanted to instill fear, and it was just getting started. The family tried to ignore it, to rationalize it, to live a normal life. But the entity only grew stronger, more demanding. It made its presence known through loud, heavy footsteps stomping through the empty halls. The sound of heavy breathing echoed in the darkness when everyone was in bed. Growls would emanate from the shadows. Doors would slam shut with brutal, bone-jarring force. The entire house groaned and creaked under an unseen pressure, as if something ancient and angry demanded their undivided attention. Before long, the haunting began to focus its malice on one person, the daughter, Diane. The entity singled her out. She was dragged up the stairs by her hair, her screams echoing through the home. Unseen hands left deep, painful scratches across her body. She was thrown across rooms like a rag doll, often right in front of horrified witnesses. This wasn't random chaos. This was deliberate. It was targeted. The entity was attacking the youngest girl, seemingly feeding on her escalating terror. And then, it finally showed itself. The family saw a dark, menacing figure. It was tall, cloaked entirely in black, like a monk. A dark hood concealed its face, leaving only a void of shadow. It would stand silently in their home, just watching them, a terrifying sentinel claiming the space as its own. This was the Black Monk. Driven to desperation, investigators looked into the history of the land. They uncovered a chilling piece of the puzzle. Hundreds of years earlier, a Cluniac monastery stood very close to where the house was built, and one of its monks was punished for horrific crimes. Some historical accounts suggest he murdered young girls. He was executed and buried in an unmarked grave, right on the land where number 30 East Drive now stands. The violent, targeted attacks on Diane suddenly made a horrifying kind of sense. This was the Black Monk, returned to his old hunting ground. Priests were called in to perform exorcisms and blessings. They sprinkled holy water in every room, praying for deliverance. But instead of retreating, the spirit grew absolutely furious. Crosses were flipped upside down on the walls. Bibles were torn from shelves and thrown across the floor. The growls that echoed through the walls became deeper, more guttural. The haunting escalated to a level of violence rarely ever recorded. Even the seasoned priests fled the house in sheer terror. In one of the most frightening moments, Jean, the mother, watched as a heavy, solid oak cabinet began to slide across the room by itself. It moved with impossible speed, pinning her against a wall. She screamed for help, but her husband and a neighbor couldn't budge it. It was like trying to move a mountain. Then, just as suddenly as it had, it released her. The cabinet slid back into its original position with a deafening slam, as if mocking her terror and her survival. Even the police became unwilling witnesses to the entity's power. Responding to calls, officers saw objects flying through the air with their own eyes. They documented a heavy fireplace being torn from a solid brick wall. They recorded extreme cold spots that would freeze their breath in an instant. These weren't ghost stories. These were official police reports, filed by officers who were so shaken they refused to ever return to the house. Years passed. The exhausted and traumatized Pritchard family finally moved out, but the Black Monk never did. New owners and paranormal investigators who have entered the house since have all reported the same violent force. Every attempt to cleanse the house has failed. Some say the monk enjoys the attention, feeding off the fear of all who dare to enter. Others believe he simply waits, patiently, for another Diane, another victim to torment. Today, number 30 East Drive is a world-famous hotspot for ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts. Visitors consistently report being scratched by an unseen force. They see dark shadows that seem to stalk them from room to room, and many hear the distinct chilling sound of heavy robes dragging across the floorboards above them. Many visitors leave in the middle of the night, unable to withstand the oppressive atmosphere and the feeling of pure evil that permeates the home. The Black Monk of Pontefract was never just a ghost story passed down through generations. It was documented, it was witnessed, it was feared by professionals and family alike. And many believe its dark energy is still growing in power. He isn't a relic trapped in the past. He is there now, waiting in the darkness of that small house, at the top of the stairs, right where Diane once screamed for help. So if you ever decide to visit number 30 East Drive, remember one thing: some hauntings never truly end. They only wait. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as terrifying as I did, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the darkness. See you next time.